Welcome to episode 15 of A Journey Through Papua New Guinea History. This episode takes place in German New Guinea in the late 1800s. At that time, German New Guinea was not ruled by the German government, but by a private company called the German New Guinea Company. It was only later, in 1899, that the company gave up control of the colony and the German government took over. You will recall from our earlier episodes that German New Guinea was made up of the northeastern part of mainland New Guinea and several smaller islands. The southern part was ruled by the British. The man in charge of German New Guinea and head of the German New Guinea Company was a wealthy banker called Otto von Hagen. Though he had the final say on all important decisions about New Guinea, he never went there. The first part of this episode is about a famous German travel writer called Otto von Ehlers. He had already published several books describing his travels in many countries in Asia and Africa, and he decided that he wanted to write another book, this time about New Guinea. His great idea was to walk right across the main island, from the north coast to the south coast, and then to write about his adventure. However, as we shall see, the expedition he led turned into a disaster, and his book about New Guinea was never written. Our story then turns to what took place after his ill-fated expedition and describes how it led indirectly to the murder of the administrator of the mainland part of German New Guinea. His name was Curt von Hagen. For the Germans in New Guinea, his murder was a shocking event. We begin our story in July 1885 when Otto von Ehlers arrived at Stephansort on the north coast of New Guinea. Stephansort was the capital of German New Guinea. It was near the present-day city of Madang. When von Ehlers arrived, he told German officials about his plan to lead an expedition right across New Guinea. The German officials were surprised to hear this because many German explorers had already encountered great difficulty when they tried to travel very far inland. They had traveled a long way up some rivers, but exploring overland was another matter entirely. They thought that von Ehlers' plan to walk right across the island was far too dangerous. But von Ehlers didn't believe them. He was confident he would succeed and carried with him a letter from New Guinea Company headquarters in Germany. The letter instructed the mainland administrator, Hugo Rudiger, to give von Ehlers all the help he could with his plan to walk across the island. Rudiger advised him not to go ahead with the expedition, but von Ehlers had made up his mind. Administrator Rudiger supplied von Ehlers with 42 police and carriers, made up of men from New Ireland and Booker, and ordered a German police officer, W. Piering, to accompany von Ehlers on the expedition. Von Ehlers calculated that he only had to walk about 6 kilometers each day to make the 170-kilometer crossing and would therefore complete it in under 30 days. Little did he know of what lay ahead and that this would be his final journey. On the 14th of August 1895, his expedition set off from near Salamaua on the north coast and marched inland towards the mountains. Von Ehlers had no idea that to reach British New Guinea and the south coast, he would have to pass through many kilometers of dense jungle and climb over high rugged mountains, the Owen Stanley Range, where the temperatures were very cold. There were no tracks to follow, and the party struggled up and down steep ridges with thorns tearing at their clothes and leeches clinging to their bodies. It rained almost without stop. progress was slow, and after 36 days they ran out of food, and von Ehlers allowed his dog to be eaten. After that, they were forced to eat grass and leaves to survive. Several carriers died or were missing. By now, the two Germans, von Ehlers and Piering, their clothes all torn, were so weak they found it difficult to walk. Everyone was suffering from hunger and covered with tropical ulcers caused by leech bites. Finally, they came to a branch of the Laka River in British New Guinea and followed it south, floating on rafts when they could. Before long, two of the policemen, Ranga and Opia, who were from Buka, apparently decided the situation had become so desperate that they could not save the sick Germans and themselves as well. Ranga and Opia decided to take drastic action, and they shot von Ehlers and Piering and threw their bodies into the river. Some New Islanders in the party protested about this, so Ranga and Opia shot dead 3 of them. The rest of the party agreed to keep the murders a secret, and that if they were able to survive and reach safety, they would report to the Germans that von Ehlers and Piering had died of illness. Finally, of the original 44 who set out, 20 survivors following the Laka River reached the south coast, where they came to villages and then to a British government station. A British officer took them to Port Moresby, and they were taken from there on the administrator's boat, the Merry England, back to German New Guinea. When the survivors arrived back at Stephensoort, they told the Germans the same story they had all agreed upon, that von Ehlers and Piering had simply died of illness along the way. The truth of what happened would never have become known if it had not been for New Ireland Police Sergeant Tom, who was one of the members of the ill-fated expedition. 2 years after the expedition, Tom decided to tell the governor of German New Guinea, Albert Hall, about how Ranga and Opia had shot von Ehlers and Piering. The Germans then questioned other members of the expedition. They confirmed what Tom had told the governor. The Germans arrested and jailed Ranga and Opia, but they escaped and stole a rifle and ammunition. They fled inland towards the Gogol River. The new administrator in charge of the mainland part of German New Guinea, Curt von Hagen, organized patrols to hunt them down and even led one of the patrols himself. On the 13th of August 1897, as von Hagen led his patrol along a bush track, he was shot and killed by Ranga, who was hiding in the jungle from view. Ranga fled the scene with Opia, and together they went into hiding. The Germans were angered by the murder of their leader and organized more expeditions to find the 2 fugitives. They threatened to punish anybody who helped them. Finally, the people of Gaib village decided to bring an end to the German threats. They killed Ranga and Opia as they were crossing the Gogol River. They handed their heads to the Germans as proof. As it turned out, the Buka and New Ireland carriers and police who survived and actually completed the expedition were the first people we know of to have walked across the island of New Guinea from coast to coast. In itself, this was an historic achievement. Also, in the colonial history of the country, Curt von Hagen was the only administrator to have been killed by a Papua New Guinean. Curt von Hagen was a popular leader, and the Germans mourned his death. They built a monument in his honor near the village of Bogajim, not far from present-day Madang. The monument had an iron-cast eagle on the top. Later, some unknown person stole the eagle and placed it in a park in the highlands in Mount Hagen. Then, once more, the eagle was stolen away from Mount Hagen, and nobody knows where it is today. However, a group of Germans who wanted to revive the memory of von Hagen restored the monument at Bogajim. They had another eagle made and put it on top of the monument, but again some unknown person stole it away. The monument, minus its eagle, is still there as a reminder of how Administrator Curt von Hagen died. And so we come to the end of episode 15. Visitors to the von Hagen monument today learn about how he was killed, but not many who see it are aware that his death was part of an earlier story that began in 1895, when Otto von Ehlers ignored all advice and made the foolhardy decision to try and walk across New Guinea. Please press the like button to help us with this project, and farewell for now. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode.